Hello and welcome to another standard gameplay video here on the official MTG Arena channel. Today we're taking a look at an updated version of the 5-color Legends deck, which received a pretty significant upgrade in the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, with Cavern of Souls naming human. Since most of the legends in this deck are human, there's a few exceptions. At 1 mana we've got 1 Skrelv, can protect some of our key creatures, and we can kind of cascade into it using Jodah's ability if we play a 2-mana legend, so it's nice to have at least 2 of them. And then at 3 mana we've got 1 Gwenna, which is also not a human, but excellent at playing Jodah on the following turn, as we can also then untap Gwenna, maybe play another legend and get immediate value. And then we also have 2 copies of Sigarda, which is our final non-human creature, but it still synergizes very well with humans, as we get to play humans off the top of the deck, in addition to giving our other permanents hexproof, so it can also help protect Jodah. And of course, the star of the show remains Jodah the Unifier, a 5/5, saying legendary creatures we control get +X/+X, where X is the number of legendary creatures we control, so by itself already a 6/6. And then whenever we cast a legendary spell from our hand, we exile cards from the top of our library until we exile a legendary non-land card with a lesser mana value, and then we can cast it without paying its mana cost. So very much reminiscent of the Cascade and more recently Discover mechanics. And then we also have 2 copies of Djeru and Hazoret as another nice curve topper for the legendary deck. A 5/4 has Vigilance and Haste as long as we have 1 or fewer cards in hand, and when it attacks we get to look at the top 6 cards of our library, exile a legendary creature from among them, and until end of turn we can play that card for free. Then at 1 mana, we already mentioned Skrelv, Ashnod, just a 1/1 with Death Touch that we're hoping to cascade into when playing a 2-drop with Jodah in play. And then at 2 mana, we've got a pretty wide range of creatures, some of which are also very useful at protecting the rest of our team. We've got Melira, which we can sacrifice to essentially bring back a creature that died this turn. We've got the Loyal Bodyguard, which we can sacrifice to give the team +1/+2 and indestructible until end of turn, whereas the more recent Dauntless General can be sacrificed to give humans we control hexproof and indestructible until end of turn as well, and also exiles the opponent's graveyard when it enters. And then we've got Thalia taxing non-creature spells, only playing 1 copy since we do still have a couple non-creature spells ourselves with our 3 copies of Relic of Legends, which is also awesome in this deck, can help ramp out Jodah and makes it much easier to cast Jodah and another legend in the same turn to kind of overwhelm the opponent by playing lots of legendaries all at once. And then Arona also has excellent synergy with our Relic of Legends, since we can tap it for mana, play legendary, untap it, and rinse and repeat. Can also just activate it to draw and discard a card, so can get rid of excess legendaries that we already have in play and dig towards our payoff cards, and occasionally can also transform it into the Tolarian Obliterator. Then a Danik 2/3 lifelink, we don't mind discarding it since we can still disturb it from the graveyard, and of course a lifelinker, very important against the prevalent mono-red aggro deck. And Ruby can also tap for red or green mana, and likely to get the +2/+2 bonus as well when attacking. And Katilda is also great as it lets our humans tap for 1 mana of any of this creature's colors, so this can also often help ramp out Jodah and make it easier to string together multiple legendaries in the same turn. Also similar to the Relic of Legends, pairs quite well with Arona. And then at 3 mana we've got a bunch of 1-offs. Loran can deal with artifacts and enchantments. Adlin and Anim Pakal are great when we're attacking, making extra 1/1 tokens in the process. Then we mentioned Gwenna to help ramp. We've got a Lagrella as kind of our removal spell. And then Shanna, also nice lifelinker that can maybe draw a few additional cards. And then at 4 mana, 2 copies of the Partners, which are also great alongside Jodah, since they will increase the Partner's power, which will then in turn add even more +1 counters to some of our creatures, and especially nice with Anim Pakal. If we can add a lot of counters to it, it will generate even more gnome tokens. And then 2 copies of Ertai Resurrected, which gives us some much needed interaction, especially useful at countering opposing sweeper effects, which are the main way that the opponent can kind of recover from Jodah making a bunch of legendaries. And then we already mentioned Sigarda to play some of our humans off the top. Now playing humans off the top of the deck does not trigger Jodah, since this only works when playing legendaries from our hand, but of course still a nice way of generating card advantage and protecting the rest of our team. And then our mana base, besides Cavern of Souls on human, also has Secluded Courtyard naming human, allowing this 5-color mana base, and Plaza of Heroes, another all-star here, letting us cast all our various legendaries, even the non-humans, and then later can also give our creatures hexproof and indestructible until end of turn if we sacrifice it. And then we've got the various channel lands, 2 copies of Vagansho and 2 copies of Soaring City, since we can kind of channel them on the cheap, giving us some more creature interaction. and then Abandoned Mire can get some of our creatures back, Crucible makes a pair of 1/1s, and Boseiju can go after non-basic lands, artifacts, or enchantments, and then a couple basics in case we need to surge them up if our opponent's playing with Field of Ruin, and a couple dual lands to kind of round out our mana base. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play, and our hand seems keepable. Even have Danik to synergize with Shanna. Play this one tapped for now. Opponent with a frontliner, so it could be blue-white soldiers. Okay, so we have options. Yeah, let's go for Rona. Thalia we don't mind. Only affects our Relic of Legends. And Anim Pakal. Okay, so activate Rona. Can discard a Danik. Play Shanna. And pass a turn. And then next turn we'll be able to play Catilda and make a bunch of mana. The Valiant Veteran pumps a T. So Thalia can hit us. And another officer. Okay, I could see discarding Anim Pakal since we're not the aggressor right now. Find another cavern. So, start by activating Rona. Can ditch Crucible. Catilda, untap Rona. So this can now make mana. And then we can run out Sigarda here if we'd like. A Relic of Legends coming up. Can draw and discard with Rona to get rid of it. Alright, Brutal Cathar is pretty effective. Exiles Sigarda. I'm okay double blocking Valiant Veteran. Catilda also has protection from Brutal Cathar, so that's important to keep in mind. And pumping Veteran makes sense. Alright, in that case, just gonna soak up 2 damage. Take 9. But now we can attack back. And Relic doesn't seem great with Thalia out. Ooh, nice Jodah right on time. So name human. Can play Jodah. And then this can make a mana. And then still play Danik. Finding a 1-drop. Ashnod. I guess this can make a mana, but I don't think it's going to be super useful. Unless we want to disturb here. Which, yeah, I guess is an option, or we can just hit for 9. And gain a bunch of life back. If I attack all out, we force the opponent to chump and we get Sigarda back. So yeah, one top deck, it changed the game drastically. And seeing the synergy between Rona and Catilda, letting us make a bunch of mana. So now we're at 17. And don't have any creatures to tap right now. Backup Sigarda coming up. So they can't even touch Jodah at the moment. And this was a totally functional draw from the Soldiers deck, even with the Brutal Cathar to answer Sigarda. Alright, looks like our opponent may have disconnected, and we can disturb Danik here to pump the team some more, but I think we already have lethal. Disturbing Danik does not trigger Jodah, since it only works if you cast a legendary from hand, but of course Rona still triggers. So there's Danik, attack, and decline here. Alright, sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a fine hand. Good mana, Rona plus Relic is great, and then Sigarda we will not have any trouble casting despite it not being a human. And if we're up against a red aggro, having Danik is also useful. Turn to Scoundrel. I think we still play Rona first. It's a close call. If they have a Lightning Strike, they're probably taking out my creature anyway. But if Rona survives, it maybe gets an extra untap step, which we can put to use. Opponent had the Lightning Strike anyway. And we'll play a Relic to set up Jodah on turn 4. Could also double spell Danik and Sigarda. So things are looking good. Back up Jodah. So what's better here? If we play Danik into Sigarda, Sigarda itself of course does not have X-proof. If we keep Danik back as a blocker, we're still potentially afraid of a Monstrous Rage. So I think we just go for Jodah. Hope they don't have some burn spells to take it out here, but with 2 lands it's going to be difficult. And then next turn we'll get value from Jodah when playing our legends. I guess Monstrous Rage on Scoundrel would not be all that devastating since it already has a Wicked Roll token, so it's not going to go above 2 toughness. Yeah, I think we just take it. If we get to untap, we probably win the game, making a huge lifelinker. It's going to be difficult for Mono Red to overcome. And then we want to make sure not to tap Danik with a Relic of Legends here. But if I play it first, we're less likely to find a 1-drop with Sigarda using Jodah's ability. And Danik's going to be big enough to survive a Lightning Strike right away, so we find Skrelv. And then play Sigarda. And that's enough for a concession, I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Sadly, can't keep a 1-lander. This is better. Rona is pretty synergistic with Relic of Legends. If we've got some creatures we can play, constantly untapping Rona, adding mana. For now, play Plaza. Opponent on a red aggro, turn 1 Kumano. Playing out the Crucible, so they might not have a ton of lands in hand. And Djeru and Hazoret could be exciting, especially with a mulligan. We're more likely to be empty-handed to enable the ability and attack with haste. Ooh, I see pirates. And there's Malcolm on 2. Okay, so for now, I guess we can loot with Rona, can do so during the opponent's turn. I guess if I do it now, there's a chance I draw into a 1-mana legend. But it's not super likely, we only have 2 of them. And if our opponent does go for a removal spell, I want to know that I don't want to discard an extra Rona. Okay, Breach is on 3, pretty powerful. Opponent probably making a treasure, can block the etching. Nope, opponent preventing us from blocking. Okay, in that case, we'll draw and discard, Rona can go. And our opponent gets to loot. Ooh, Jodah was an excellent draw. Yeah, let's put that in play. And then we'll just pass for now. Again, unlikely to draw into a 1-drop. A 7/7's not that easy for the pirate deck to take out. So what kind of removal can we expect? Maybe a Voltage Surge to deal 2 or 4 if they sack a treasure. Yeah, I think I'm okay blocking the etching. We fall to 8. But hopefully we've got an exciting turn coming up. Opponent could still have a Larcenist here to exile Jodah, but they probably would have played that before attacking. Another Kumano. Alright, end of turn we'll draw and discard. And now we might see the Voltage Surge. Yep, that's fine. And then if I discard Djeru and Hazoret, we should be able to mostly empty our hand. Especially with Catilda, another cheap creature. So yeah, let's play Catilda, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can still play Djeru and Hazoret with haste. And of course we get to Cascade here as well, finding Skrelv. So now we can keep Jodah untapped. Okay, trigger Jodah, finding our Author 1-drop sadly. And get a nice attack in for 20 damage. And trigger Djeru, which will find the partners. Alright, not bad. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, and what do we think of this? Yeah, I mean, it could work. It's gonna take a while to get to 5 for Jodah. Might have to discard the extra copy, but with Skrelv early, it will be protected. Mountain Kumano up against Mono Red. We're drawing all the channel lanes here. Could hang on to the blue one for later. Don't think we're taking out Kumano anytime soon. Typically want to avoid playing the mountain since we do have some blue, white and green 3-drops that we won't be able to cast otherwise. Phoenix Chick enters with a counter. And a Swift Spear, so that one we can block safely now. Get to untap, Iganjo. Alright, so we have all the channel lanes here except for the black one now. So we can channel either one, but not both, because of our current mana. So probably just play a land, pass, and then keep up the flexibility of Otawara and Iganjo. And then we can still activate Arona as well. Can maybe block a creature if our opponent goes for a Monstrous Rage. We can act accordingly. Going to discard and draw. So they might have a few too many lands in hand. Another Swift Spear, okay. And attack like so. Taking out Phoenix Chick maybe not that great when our opponent's going wide and they can get it back. So let's start by blocking. And then maybe Iganjo on a Swift Spear, but we'll see what we draw first. Okay, Plaza. So I don't think I'll need a second Jodah. And let's just Iganjo now. Take 3. Shanna's excellent. Although, as I mentioned earlier, now we're having some awkwardness with the red source. May as well loot. And Courtyard, probably worse than Soaring City here. So we've got a lifelinker with a protection from Skrelv, but a pump spell like Monstrous Rage could still be pretty effective. Alright, just Phoenix Chick attacking, I'd love to see that. And Squee, second main, that's pretty sad. So we'll activate Runa. Sigarda's tempting, but I think we just keep land Jodah. Can't really go wrong with that. I guess we'll loot again. And then Shanna's gonna be huge, so that can gain 7. And that's enough for an explosion. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. Can play Skrelv using Plaza, so Cavern can name human. And even have a turn to Thalia, so great against any more controlling strategy. And then if we can top off our curve with Djeru and Hazoret, that will be great. Thalia is uncounterable. Not sure if our opponent's on control or maybe still a soldier's deck that's going to make some tokens end of turn. And a Fateful Absence hits Skrelv before Thalia can tax them. So it is control. Alright. So having Thalia is great. Although sweepers are still pretty difficult for us to beat. Thalia gets lost as well. Danik is next. Yeah, let's play Shanna. Hope our opponent doesn't have a Wandering Emperor next turn, since we would like to hit the opponent and then draw a bunch of cards. Could also play Danik, if that hits them. Can play Shanna and then still draw 1 card end of turn. Probably best to just play Shanna herself. And then next turn we could potentially draw 3 if it connects. If our opponent passes here, I have to imagine they've got a Wandering Emperor. Okay, in that case, can play Relic, and then play Danik without tapping Shanna. And then instead of attacking into an Emperor, we can just sacrifice our clue token here to draw a card while keeping up Otawara. And then next turn, Djeru and Hazoret will have Vigilance, so lines up a bit better against an Emperor. Turns out our opponent had a Memory Deluge instead. But we still have a way to spend our mana here, so it doesn't feel like a waste. And of course they could have both Deluge and Emperor. Field of Ruin probably interested in taking out Cavern, and a Sunfall. Alright. Could actually be a bad thing for us to sack the clue, since then Djeru may not have haste. But I think it's still worth it. Might draw some other cheap legend that we can play alongside it. Or we could top deck Jodah and play Jodah here. Don't quite have the mana to channel Soaring City, since we have 2 mana and get 1 discount. But I'll just pass. Don't think I'm interested in sacking my map tokens just yet, since I wouldn't want to draw lands right now. And get to untap. Ertai is huge, since that gives us a counter spell. So let's say we play Djeru and Hazoret, it's uncounterable. Then if I play my Soaring City as well, we'll have the mana to cast Ertai. And trigger Jodah. Play Runa. And then I just attack with Djeru and Hazoret, so we don't lose Jodah to a Wandering Emperor. And then the hope is that our opponent taps out for another sweeper next turn, we can counter it, and then win the game. Find Catilda. And our opponent's gonna jump with the Incubator here. Okay. Play Catilda for free. And pass a turn. Since we didn't cast it from hand, it did not trigger Jodah. There's Emperor as we suspected, that's fine. Gotta keep airtime for a sweeper. I guess our opponent could have sweeper plus 2 mana counterspell, and that would be bad. Opponent makes another samurai. No need to play Artai unless it's to counter a sweeper, I think. Now we also have access to Plaza of Heroes to protect some of our legendaries. And the Iron Crag is next, that's fine. Okay, so play land to give Djeru Vigilance. And then attack all out. Is probably fine. Could also activate Catilda to pump the team. Doesn't seem needed. Opponent likely has another Wandering Emperor here. But now we've got Plaza of Heroes. Yeah, Dauntless General can give our team hexproof and indestructible. Can go for partners, but our team's already powerful enough, so we'd rather get the insurance here. If we select Artai, I would be forced to play it before the turn is over, so... Double jump. Bonus at 10. Play General and pass. And we can also get rid of that Memory Deluge for what it's worth. And now we have mana to counter an opposing counter spell, like Make Disappear if they were to go Sunfall Make Disappear. And our airtime will also be uncounterable with Cavern, so there's not much that can go wrong here, but we'll see. Opponent did have another Wandering Emperor.
You started this fight, but I'm going to end it.
Just making a token. But even with a second token, they're not going to survive another attack. So that's fine.
Let your blade do the talking.
Does not seem like they have a sweeper, or we would have seen it by now. Take our turn. And we're just gonna attack all out once again. Probably wanted to play my land first to keep giving vigilance. But with double Plaza, I don't think it matters. And this time, find Sigarda. Jump, jump. Still take 19 damage. GG's. Yeah, even managed to beat control here, thanks to the early Thalia slowing them down. And then, of course, the insurance from Artai is nice to have, even if we did not need it in the end. Awesome, so we get to rank up here as well. Yeah, this 5-color Legends deck with the addition of Cavern of Souls is better than ever before, so it's definitely a good time to pick up Jodah, or if you already had some pieces of the deck, maybe just add those Cavern of Souls and then give it another spin. So I can definitely recommend the deck if you like aggressive creature strategies, and especially if you like cascading with Jodah. So that'll do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.